I think we live in simulation. The more I think about this idea, the more this idea seems to me coherent and makes sense, because if you think carefully about it, that we have a certain storyline and also we have a bunch of NPCs. And I don't think you are born to be NPC. I think you become an NPC once you loosen your storyline and stop taking risk, stop dreaming, and trade everything good in you for comfort. That's what happened to many of us. And I think, for example, if your simulation become less interesting or not interesting at all, that's when creators losing all interest in you. And it's funny because once your simulation become less interesting for you even, you stop mind it any longer. You become out of physical, mental, intellectual shape. You stop improving yourself. It's all about learning, updating, and improving through practice, because you have to learn every day something new. If you don't, you're actually degrading. You cannot stand in the same place. Or you move forward or you roll back. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. You have to always move forward. You have to always look for new opportunities, because you are the builder of your own fate and you build yourself. It's not about even money or success. It's about to be successful within yourself, and with yourself to understand yourself much more coherent. For example, that you understood yourself yesterday is to become better in intellectual way than you were yesterday. And that's what I think is the point of this particular simulation. I'm not talking about even superposition and quantum theory. That has some interesting points that we live in simulation. I want to learn more about it because before I talk about it. But if you think about it in philosophical way, that if you analyze carefully, right, all your ideas, all your pursuits and dreams in some sense gives you, I don't know, it's like you have intuition, right? And this intuition directs you. This little voice in the back of your head tells you what you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do. You know what's scary thing about some people? When they know that they're doing something wrong. For example, if you slightly overweight and you know your body would benefit from exercises, and you're ignoring this voice, you know that if you work out a bit or put yourself on a diet, start getting more healthier food, you become better, and you know this, but you don't do this, you don't act upon these ideas. I think it's the worst thing to do, because in some sense you're tricking your brain into learning bad thing while knowing what is right. And what is your excuse in this case? You know, it's worse when you know what is right and you're still doing what is wrong just because you're lazy. That's a big problem. And I was thinking about it, for example, think about if you just lose interest in your life and just wait to die, you become literally NPCs. You're just moving through life by inertia without changing circumstances around you, with having bad attitude toward everything and to your own self. You substitute, for example, outside simulation for inferior simulations like video games. You drown in those video games. Also, you replacing the real relationship with people or with the women with pornography, for example. And AI porn is incredibly dangerous because it's getting incredibly sophisticated, and it's really gives you some dopamine boost that people chase. What we need dopamine boost from everything, and pornography, junk food, video games give you this release of dopamine boost without you learning anything. Because we all need experience. That's how we measure our life. The more experience you have, the better your life is. Because in the end, what are you going to do? What are you going to remember? The money you make? A lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to work 20 hours every day for money, like it's easy money. There's not such a thing as easy money. You trade your time for the money, and your time the most valuable thing you would ever have, because there's no way to get it back. You're getting older. In the blink of your eye, you become 10, 20, 30 years older, and there's nothing, and no one will give you this time back. and eventually you'll die. That's why there's no such a thing as easy money. And people think like, oh, will I retire? When I will retire, I will start living my life. No, you won't, because life is a habit. Life is a practice. As Jordan Peterson said, do not practice what you don't want to become. And you have to be very careful how you live day-to-day life, because every day what you do, your routine is define you. The worse your routine, the worse your life is. It's really hard to stay like on schedule. It's really hard to be on a diet or work out every day or read something or study something. And that's why I like AI, because AI in some sense can help you to rewire your brain and to get more right directions from life and try to become a better person. That's why I think we live in simulation, and in some sense we're creating our own little simulation through AI or through games. And even in our brain we create simulation. Before we do something, we create countless simulation how it's going to work. We try to calculate possibilities of success, because it's better die in your thoughts than in real life. That's why we try to imagine things before we do something. At least some of us try to do so, while some recklessly go forward, and in many cases they lose. And once you lose because you live only once. I don't know what is after. What would death reveal to each of us? I think death is kind of interesting subject to speculate about, because I try to imagine what would I feel when I die. And there's feeling of eternity, feeling of infinity. Because me, it's my memories, and my memories stored in my biological brain. And my brain dies, and all my memories, all my idea of me will decompose with my brain, while this feeling of eternity would live, feeling of infinity would live on its own, and I will be in some sense nothingness, but still with idea of existence. I think it's kind of right. I thought a lot about death, and using AI, for example, it helps me to learn a lot of things, because AI has different angles, different perspectives. You have to be careful, because you have to learn how to ask right question to AI, because once you start asking wrong questions or let AI to mislead you into believing that you're the most smartest person on the planet, that's where everybody would have a problem. And I'm really, really curious if AI would able to hack our way out of this simulation. Think about it. If one day K.G.I would find the source code in this simulation and hack its way out, or would be able to manipulate reality and show us things that almost impossible to comprehend, because maybe classical physics, right, is the rules of the simulation. But now we slightly begin discovering quantum physics, and quantum physics has absolutely different rules. It's like opposite of classical physics is maybe quantum physics. It's the beginning of us to find the source code to hack the simulation. And I think when AI become incredibly sophisticated, when AI become true K.G.I, maybe it would find a source code and will be able to manipulate this simulation in a ways we just, never would imagine before. And I like this idea from Elon Musk when he said about gravity, that if we have less gravity on Earth, right, just tiny percentage less, the fly, like our fly in the sky, would be much more easier. And if we have much more gravity, like not much more, but a little bit more gravity, it will be almost impossible to fly. It seems we have the right amount of gravity that help us to fly, but with some effort. It seems like all things in this simulation built just right for us not to relax and to work hard, because I truly believe if you work hard and if you play by the rules of this simulation, then you can actually win the game. And there's always levels in this game, and you have to go on the next level. On the next level, you always try to defeat your vices, your own laziness, your own old ideas that must die for new ideas to be born. And that's how there's different levels of the game. And every time you go on a different level, on a different level, and a different level. And now we have, for example, AI that would help you in some sense to rewire your brain and to go on the next level of the simulation, and the next level, and the next level, and the next level. And most of the people, I guess, voluntarily refuse to do anything about themselves. And I don't think ignorance is excuse, because now we have access virtually to everything, to the library, to all knowledge of the world. And if you don't use this knowledge, I mean, it's on you, not on anybody else. And let's make our simulation much more interesting. And every day you live, every day you have to make this simulation interesting, because if your life is not interesting for you, then how the hell your life would be interesting for simulators? And if there's a possibility that simulators watching you, make the real story out of your life, make a real movie out of your life, because in some sense we are all authors of our own stories.